What are your member schools facing if the proposals in this paper are given the force of law?
Devastation, frankly.
Well, that was Mark Spencer of Christian Schools Australia back in February when asked about the future of Christian schools under a proposal by the Australian Law Reform Commission to strip all religious schools of the freedom to employ staff who share their ethos. Now, just last week, the Federal Attorney-General, Mark Dreyfus, announced that the Law Reform Commission would now have until December of this year to keep reviewing the religious freedoms of religious schools. Joining me now to discuss this latest development is Mark Spencer, the Public Policy Director of Christian Schools Australia. Mark, thanks very much for being with us today.
Pleasure, Lyle. Great to be with you.
Mark, your comments to Amanda Stoker on Sky News back in February were quite bracing. Most Australians think it's uncontroversial that we have religious schools, and they're very tolerant of them and positive towards them. In fact, many Australians who are not even Christian or religious send their children to Christian schools. In fact, your enrolments are up. Why are religious schools in Australia facing devastation under the Albanese government's law reform proposals?
Well, you're absolutely right. Our enrolments are up. Christian schools, faith-based schools of all types, are the fastest growing sector of the schooling sector. Now, that's because people are coming to us. They want our values. They want the type of education we're providing. But the proposals from the Law Reform Commission would strip away the ability for faith-based schools, Christian schools, Islamic schools, other faith-based schools, to employ staff who share their beliefs. And that's fundamental to who we are and the nature of the education we provide. We've just been collecting a whole range of stories from parents about how faith has impacted how their schools are interacting with their students, how they're caring for their students, and what they're teaching in those schools. It's so vitally important. We need to keep that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, it's no secret. I'm the product of a Christian school. The role models of all my teachers, the ground staff, the janitors, to the chaplaincy staff was absolutely important to my development. And of course, I wanted the same for my children as they went through Christian schools. And to lose this, of course, as you say, is devastating. Now, the background to this, of course, goes back to the same-sex marriage debate in 2017 and the religious freedom process that emerged from that debate through Malcolm Turnbull to protect religious freedoms from the consequence of degendering marriage. Now, why is it, Mark, that Australian political leaders from both sides have found it so difficult to simply allow religious schools to believe and teach religious beliefs about marriage and the truth about gender as they stood prior to 2017?
I think if I knew the answer to that, I'd be a very wealthy person, probably not doing what I'm doing now. It's a really good question, Lyle. I mean, what we saw back in 2018, just after this debate started, was the release of the results of an expert panel review, a panel of highly qualified jurists, lawyers, academics, who looked at this very issue. They consulted with thousands of people around the country. They did a range of workshops and stakeholder consultations. And they basically said, look, the law as it stood then, as it stands now, has pretty much got the balance right when you look at what the requirements are under international law. So that expert panel said, it's right. Just to make sure people are clear on what schools are doing, make sure they publish their policies, that's the way forward. But what we've seen since that is some very cashed-up activists working very hard to try to undermine that view. And that's where the problems come. You know, people do understand what we're about. They know who we are. We're very clear about who we are. We are Christian schools. That's the name on the box. That's what you're coming in and signing up for. But people are trying to attack that. And these long-held views around marriage and gender, these biologically supported views, these views held by billions of people around the world, now seem to be incredible for some people.
Yeah, well, let's just bring out into the light who these some people are and these cashed-up activists. It's no secret that you're referring to an organisation called Equality Australia.